My name is Christy Zalke. I'm a former kindergarten teacher and a first grade teacher, as well as a tutor and a We Shall Read coach. I am also a mom of two boys, ages 6 and 9. I started to coach a pre-K classroom late in the spring. I was modeling that sound symbol connection with the tapping of the chart. I was modeling and practicing with them how to arm tap. We were playing the secret decoder game as well as I Spy whole group. And I had a parent reach out to me after 2 weeks. Once a week I was going in and mentoring, but the teacher would take the skills and continue. After the second week, a parent reached out to me and she said she cannot believe how her daughter all of a sudden was interested and curious with how letters represent sounds. She was reading environmental print, meaning they were like going to Target and going to Costco, and she was making those connections with the letters, which she said she had never really noticed that the world around her had a print. And she was sending me pictures of how her daughter was starting to write letters. So just the ear training and the sound symbol connection, when you pair that with arm tapping, you're giving your child and gifting them a skill where they can take what they've learned and then they can kind of self-teach. If they have access to all of the sounds and the symbols, and then they know how to break words apart, they can start to really make solid connections. When your child's doing this and these are working in tandem, they're ready for that next phase of that individual reading and spelling of words. I wanted to thank We Shall Read for sponsoring the Summer Literacy Series. This is actually part 2 of the Raising Reading Rockstars event. So yesterday, Kelly Rummel gave an overview of how the brain learns how to read. She also explained the importance of the sound symbol connection, as well as how you can layer on handwriting. One of the biggest questions as a former teacher that I get a lot from parents is, how can I help prepare my kindergarten or first grader over the summer? So before I get into what you can do with your child, I want to show you kind of where we're going, the steps to develop into a fluent reader. Through this brain research that Kelly talked about yesterday, I'm not going to go too much into it, but we've learned there is a certain systemic and way to teach reading in order for the brain to learn how to read. So one of the foundational skills is the sound symbol connection. We need to be teaching this so that the children can automatically access that A represents the A sound. But today we're going to be focusing on this ear training, hearing sounds that are in words, which we call phonemic awareness. So once we have these two skills strengthening in tandem, we learn to we can hop over and learn to read and spell at the single word level, and moving on to reading 2 or 3 word phrases, followed by sentences and then paragraphs. And then your child can start to read the phonetic books. So when we teach in this explicit, systematic way, one skill builds off of the next, and the next and the next. So each layer that's added, it's providing the brain extra repetition to strengthen those neural pathways. Now, some of you might be thinking, if you've been teaching and you're thinking, maybe I have an older child, what about if my child's already reading pattern books? It looks like they're a really great reader. Why would I need to go back and do some of these skills like ear training or developing, making sure that they have that sound symbol connection? And here's the thing, for some kids, those pattern books and, those cueings of get your mouth ready for the word, look at the picture, come back, it might provide enough repetition in the brain for them to master it and be able to grasp that spelling pattern. But the thing is, for the majority of children, this instruction isn't super helpful. So if your child's really learning how to just memorize sight words or rely on a pattern text, or if the child's really prompted to emphasize like looking at the picture and getting their mouth ready and taking, kind of a guess at what that word will be. The problem is that the child's really going to get stuck when the pictures are no longer there, or when the pattern's taken away, or if the words on the page exceed the amount of words that the child is able to strictly memorize, or if they don't know how to decode the vocabulary. And here's the thing, is that we don't really see that drop happen in kindergarten or first grade. We see this happen around third or fourth grade. And we can tell based on if you look up the state numbers in Michigan, at how many kids in third and fourth grade actually start to decline and struggle. The bubble bursts, and many kids lose their self-esteem and really struggle with reading. So when we go through this sequence today, you are going to learn not only the way that the brain's going to absorb the information, you're also going to be taken through the sequence in which we teach reading based on brain research. So again, that sound symbol connection, I cannot emphasize this enough. Tapping these charts daily will increase the automaticity of that sound symbol connection. This is absolutely essential. So the sound symbol connection goes kind of in tandem during this ear training. So they actually need to be explicitly taught that words are made up of their individual sounds. So they can listen very carefully to a word and then hear the sounds that make up that word. This is phonemic awareness. And research has proven that developing phonemic awareness or ear training is one of the most essential foundational skills for reading and writing success. So how do we do it? We do it through a strategy called arm tapping. So arm tapping helps train our ears that words are made up of individual sounds by something concrete. So we teach the kids to break words apart by using their arm, pretty much because their arm is with them all the time. So their arm becomes a tool that helps them through decoding a word when they're reading, but also for spelling a word. Arm spell the word shop.
Shop.
Yes. Now spell shut.
Shut.
So that is the strategy of arm tapping. Now we can use the strategy of arm tapping and we can layer in some fun games so that it's not always about just tapping your arm and saying the sounds. So the first game that I'm going to teach you is the secret decoder game. And this game is actually played with little 3D objects or picture cards. And you put the objects or cards in a bag or a basket and you pull out each object one by one. Again, you're going to want, as you pull it out with your child, you're going to want to really develop that background knowledge and that vocabulary of what each little object is. After you set about 4 or 5 objects down in front of you, between you and the child, you're going to model arm tapping and then they'll mirror you, and then they can blend the word to come up with the code word, and then they can select the object. With only a few options in front of them, it has a really concrete visual support to help with that phoneme segmentation and blending. So I have some little objects in just a regular old bag that I could pull out in front of the kids. If you can see them better, like this. A little frog. What is this, a pig? Nope, this is a hog. Do you know what a hog is? Again, we're just taking every opportunity that we can to build vocabulary. And we would talk about what a log is. These are all words that have that common spelling pattern of og. So again, I have the 4 objects out in front of me. I would go ahead, I would get my arm out and I would say to the kids, I'm thinking of a word. This is the word, og. Og. Hold it in your mind. And then I could say, okay, now what picture? What object is it? And they would select the log. So that is the secret decoder game. Like I said, I really enjoy this game, especially because it has such great visual support for those kids who might need it. If this idea of segmenting and blending is still pretty tricky, the secret decoder game is a really great way to go. And like I said, it really helps develop vocabulary for those young learners as well. When I was first learning about this, I just started to gather random things around my house. A little drum. I looked through my boys' toys. I found a little chair. I found a screw. I bought a lot of these little erasers that are all different objects. I actually was able to find quite a few random objects around my house. Or I just gathered some stickers and put them on index cards. Here's some scrapbooking things. Or Brain Friendly Reading has. These are the pictures from the games chart. You can use these, pull these out, and you could put these in front of the kids as well. And then this is how I would do it. I would have the objects in front of them, and then I would say, okay, are you ready for my secret word? And I would use my arm and tap it, and then they would blend it, van, and they could pick that out right there. If you're looking for secret decoder game pieces, if you're thinking I'm not bothering with going on a treasure hunt around my house, don't worry. This is the QR code, the link to not only the kindergarten chart, but also the Go Fish, which I'm going to teach you, deck of cards. And you can use these Go Fish pictures and you can use them for the secret decoder game. So the next game that I have is very similar. And again, it's just reinforcing that arm tapping technique. So basically you play I Spy, but instead of labeling the object, you arm tap it. So the child really has to listen closely to the sounds, blend them together in order to figure out the code word. Playing the secret decoder game, playing the I Spy game just provides more repetition. So this is how you would play. I spy with my little eye a frog. Can you find it on the screen? Frog. Okay, who knows what it is? Say it with me, frog. And then they could point to the frog. I play this game, I think, all day, every day. I play it for maybe 5 minutes at a time with my son. He's 6, he's going to kindergarten next year. This is his very favorite game to play. We play this when we are in line at Costco. We play this when we are waiting for his brother who is playing hockey. We were just playing it the other day all around the ice arena. This is just my absolute favorite game because at any point when your child's getting restless, if you're waiting at a restaurant, you whip out this game and all of a sudden they're engaged and they're practicing really important foundational skill. So if you're struggling with how to sit down with your child and spend a long time to do, homework over the summer, slide these games in. These are really, really easy to do. In the car, we can't really play I Spy if we're on the freeway driving up north. So I kind of had to adapt it a little bit to I hear with my little ear. And when we were driving, I would say, I hear with my little ear a terrain. Terrain. What was it? Or a bird. Bird. We've talked about that sound symbol connection and the importance of tapping that chart. It takes 1 minute each day. I can't emphasize enough what a game changer that chart is. Beyond that, that's arm tapping any way that you can fit it in. So whether you're playing the secret decoder game or the I Spy game or I hear with my little ear, adding those games in and practicing that arm tapping is really, really, really going to help your child. By doing that arm tapping, you're not only supporting that ear training, the phonemic segmentation and blending, it's also a way for your child to help them with their spelling. So what do you do next? Like I said, we're going to work on that individual word level reading and spelling. So when you layer in all of these skills, you are going to see huge gains with your kids. I started to coach a pre-K classroom late in the spring. I was modeling that sound symbol connection with the tapping of the chart. I was modeling and practicing with them how to arm tap. We were playing the secret decoder game as well as I Spy whole group. And I had a parent reach out to me after 2 weeks. Once a week I was going in and mentoring, but the teacher would take the skills and continue. After the second week, a parent reached out to me and she said she cannot believe how her daughter all of a sudden was interested and curious with how letters represent sounds. She was reading environmental print, meaning they were like going to Target and going to Costco, and she was making those connections with the letters, which she said she had never really noticed that the world around her had a print. And she was sending me pictures of how her daughter was starting to write letters. So just the ear training and the sound symbol connection, when you pair that with arm tapping, you're giving your child and gifting them a skill where they can take what they've learned and then they can kind of self-teach. If they have access to all of the sounds and the symbols, and then they know how to break words apart, they can start to really make solid connections. When your child's doing this and these are working in tandem, they're ready for that next phase of that individual reading and spelling of words. So this process that happens in our brains is called orthographic mapping, which I am not really going to get too much in depth of how the brain does all of that today. I'm going to teach you how to do it. You're simply going to need to know that mapping the words in an explicit way allows the brain to recognize patterns in words. It's those word patterns that really matter. And then it's the repeated reading and writing of words with similar patterns that helps our brain build the neural pathways for fluency. And I want to refer you back to that infographic that Kelly had yesterday about some kids only need a few repetitions. Some struggling readers might need many more. If your child is a really struggling reader, possibly undiagnosed dyslexic or diagnosed with dyslexia, they might need hundreds of repetitions in order to map these words in their brain, and that's okay. But it's the continued and repeated reading of words with those similar patterns that's going to help build the neural pathways in their brain. So in order to do this, we play a lot of games. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. That's why this program is so successful, because kids get so frustrated with pulling out a book and not knowing how to decode the words when you need to pull back and read at that single word level. So Go Fish is the next game that I want to share with you today. When I first learned how to incorporate Go Fish into my lessons, I was absolutely certain that my struggling reader at home was not going to play and there was going to be no buy-in. And I was extremely surprised that he actually wanted to do it with me and he was excited. Same thing happened with the chart tapping. I thought he wasn't going to do that. There was absolutely no way. And within 2 weeks, he was feeling so much confidence. His spelling improved dramatically. And then we started to layer in these games and he was engaged. And the thing is, when you play a game, it increases their attention and it decreases the stress. So if you are overwhelmed with the amount of words on a page or reading a book, or it's hard, you don't know the whole code to the English language, so it would be very difficult to read. It's very stressful. When you're working at that word level and really working on getting those repeated reading of the word level patterns, it increases your child's confidence. The stress is going down and they're actually really engaged. So I just can't say enough amazing things about that. I'm going to go ahead and share my document camera with you and teach you how to play Go Fish words. I keep referring to this idea of words with a similar spelling pattern. And I find these through the Brain Friendly Reading. This is the Games Book 1. And I'll just show you real quick. That's all of the games that you can play. There's so many. Here is the sequence and what we teach. There's the tapping chart and games. So with each new skill, it'll say the new skill and it'll say what game it is. And then there's more than one game. So it's actually really nice because here's the first game, with just a consonant, vowel, consonant. When you get to Go Fish 2, there's some, it's more challenging. Here we're working with 2-word phrases. Read them, these words, and you can pull out some index cards. Usually what I like to do with my son, because if we know that if we're not only saying it, arm tapping it, and writing it at the same time, it's going to help move into long-term memory faster. So simply, I took one of the pages in the books. These were, I believe, the mixed short vowels. So he had already learned the short A sound. He's already learned the short O sound. These are all CVC words. He's learned that short E sound. And I would just say a word. We would arm tap it together. So here I would say the word lad. We arm tapped it. We wrote it. And then this is a great way, again, layer in that vocabulary. Have you ever heard of the word lad? Yeah, lad can mean like a friend.
Okay, today we're going to play Go Fish. So each person, they drew 3 cards, and we are working with the consonant, vowel, consonant pattern. I represents the sound. That's right. All right, why don't you start us off?
Do you have the egg dig?
Ooh, look closer. Egg.
Digs. No, I do not. Go fish.
Do you have any matches? Read it.
Do. Eggs.
Eggs.
Dip. Eggs. Digs. Do you have kin?
Do you know what kin is?
No.
Kin is a family member or relative. Kin. Rosie, do you have the word kin?
Go fish.
So those were my boys playing Go Fish, 2 different ages, 5, and my oldest was 8. It's only going to help reinforce these patterns in my oldest son's brain to help play this game for his brother. But there are many different ways that I can work in to make it beneficial for him. And one of them is, again, adding some words, CVC words he might not know, like the word kin. So that's what I love about brain friendly reading, is that there's just so many different ways on which this curriculum is just so flexible for not only the kids and their ages, but also their abilities. So the next game that I want to show you is how to play a board game. At the beginning of the games book, there is a blank game board page. So instead of putting the words on an index card, I could go ahead and dictate the word to the child, and they could write each word in each space. So again, if I were to dictate the word fed, I would say fed and give an example. My son said it, he would arm tap it and then write it down. This is an example of one of the games that we made. And then all I need to do, pull out I love this because it only goes to 3. So I can pull out the dice and we can go ahead. I use all of the little secret decoder games as our pieces to play. So I use the secret decoder pieces and then we can play our game. These games, even my 4th grade students who I tutor love. They love them. I have a few who don't really like these boards. They create their own game board with lots of different twists and turns and squares that say like go forward to, back to. This is a lot of work. And if you have a 5-year-old, this might be absolutely too overwhelming for them to work on writing all of this. We have incredible board games that are available that go through just like the games book that I showed you. There's different multiple levels for each word pattern. And it goes along with the kindergarten curriculum. So remember yesterday on the chart, there's that first line and that first row of letters. Those letters there's an easy board game that maybe it just has each letter, then a medium board game where it has a few, some words, and then a harder board game as well.
All right.
Dad. Wait. D. A. B. B. A. D. Dog.
Let's try it again. Let's look at the letters as we arm tap. Ready?
B. A. D. Bad.
There you go. When you use your arm, it helps, doesn't it? Every time.
What do we? I have
Ready?
to read them. I'm pretty close to the end.
2.
2.
2.
I just loved that video of him doing that. I don't know if you could see, we actually use letter tiles to build the words. And then he really wanted to write them down and make his game board. So we ended up doing both. But if you notice, when he said bad, he said d-ab. And then when he put it on his arm, he said b-ad. But when he went to blend it, he said dog. That happens a lot when you're first teaching this idea of segmenting and blending sounds. But when I pointed his attention back to the letters, which he has been tapping the charts, his mom got access to these charts before I started to work with him. So he has been tapping these charts for a while. When his eyes went back to those letters and he was doing the arm tapping, he got it right away. The arm tapping in combination with that repeated over and over of tapping the charts, it really gives your kids the skill to unlock these words, and it happens pretty quickly. I've also tried to layer in this idea of building background knowledge and building vocabulary and language structures simply by modeling and giving direct, explicit instruction, teaching them about the vocabulary. There is a huge correlation between vocabulary scores and reading comprehension scores when you get into like 4th and 5th grade. And the easiest way is just by reading books, reading poems, singing songs, singing rhymes, reading rhymes. These are just fantastic ways to reinforce that rhyme, rhythm, alliteration, and vocabulary. And so here's an example of a poem. Here's an example of a song, the letters on the bus. So if we were going to sing the letters on Matthew's bus go muppity mup, muppity mup, muppity mup. I feel like by the time our little kids get to kindergarten, there are so many that think that maybe nursery rhymes, they're too old for these. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Kids really need exposure and many, many repetitions, especially those struggling readers. Here's an example: hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock, clock, dock. Oh, they have that same ending sound. They have that same ox sound, pointing that out to them, explicitly teaching them as you go through and read books like this. On the book Motor Goose, and it's all of like some really great rhymes. This was one of their favorites. Tow the car. Tow the car slowly down the lane. And again, you can keep it fun, you can keep it simple. Another great strategy, of course, Dr. Seuss. He's going to be a huge go-to for all of these key, fun, nonsense words, a lot of CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant words. But something else you could do, and Allie's alligator, Instead of saying A, or naming the letter, you can say the sound. And just by switching some of these simple, alphabet books, and instead of naming the letter, say the sound, and it reinforces each time you go through. Here's elemental P's. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that, but we could get to the letter C. We're climbers, campers. This book, Digger, Dozer, Dumper, can you tell I have boys? This was another one of the favorites. It has these poems. And again, it's just going through that, some rhymes, some alliteration, but all of this and going through the vocabulary and the language structures and reading to your children is going to be the easiest, most accessible thing you can do. Don't skimp on it. And again, nursery rhymes are not too young for your child. Okay, so if you are interested in any of the games books, the games book 1 is going to be a great idea for the starting launching point. The games book 2 gets into the long vowels, the bossy R's, the consonant LE. This is for a more advanced student. The digital versions of these games are about $15, but like I said, if you use that July 4th code, you'll get 50% off. You can find both these on the Brain Friendly Reading under the shop tab as well. So if you're liking this idea of all of these games to reinforce these strategies and reinforce that sequence that I showed you of how to read fluently, I gave a presentation back in February or March all about different word level games that you can play. So it's actually up on YouTube. This is what it looks like. It's just reading and spelling games. So if you're interested in more and want more, you can go there. Also, I just would like to end the session by extending an invitation to you. If you're interested in expanding your skill set, either for tutoring or if you're a classroom teacher, or just because you want to be able to help your child, you know that maybe your kid will not learn this way in the classroom environment. We Shall Read offers 2 different structured literacy courses. So the first is titled the Brain Friendly Reading Level 1 Training. It's a 30-hour self-paced asynchronous. It's based on Orton Gillingham and Montessori. It includes lectures, some practice, printed material, digital materials. It also, what I love about it is that there's ongoing mentoring and support through Monday night coaching calls, where you really learn effective strategies. If you go through the We Shall Read website, you can get this training for $125, which is just an absolute steal for the quality training. There's also another program called the Mentor Me Reading Tutor. So if you're thinking, I really want to start up a tutoring business, maybe teaching isn't my background, or I'm going to need more mentorship. It's that 30-hour it's exact same training, but you're also going to be assigned a Brain Friendly Reading certified mentor throughout the course. So you'll have calls and you can discuss your students, you can discuss how to implement it. And then also you'll have those coaching calls as well. And that's, if you sign up through We Shall Read, $225. This Brain Friendly Reading training was the best investment that I made in my education. I did not learn any of this in my undergraduate degree. I did not learn any of this in my master's degree. And when my child started to struggle, I didn't have the tools to help him. And he has, I can't even tell you how much he has grown in just a little over a year of working with him and following the structured course. If you have any questions about that, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. You can email me at christyweshallread@gmail.com. Please go ahead and follow We Shall Read and Brain Friendly Reading on Facebook and Instagram. The Instagram accounts are awesome because you're actually going to see tutors doing this work, implementing it with kids. And I still continue to learn something new every day. So if you want to take the QR code right there, let me know how I did and if I can change anything for future presentations, that'd be great.